You're now watching the Mike Missanelli podcast on the BetRivers Network.
Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the Mike Missanelli podcast. It is brought to you by BetRivers. Final Four coming up. Place your bets. I don't know how many people could actually bet against UConn at this point. They're like a 10.5 point favorite in game one. I wouldn't bet against them, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Today, we'll also talk about the Final Four and other things with the great Jay Wright, who's now a TV and commercial star. You've been seeing him on TNT in the halftime and post-game and all that stuff, and also CBS doing a great job. We'll talk to Jay in a little bit. Let's start out with what's most current in the minds of people, and it is your Philadelphia Phillies. All right, first weekend of the year against, for my money, the best team in baseball in the Atlanta Braves. And so after game one, the opener, Philly fans couldn't wait to panic. I'd be like, I've never seen anything like this. Listen, I know we're a reactive fan base, but one game is pushing it a little too far in a season that has 161 more games. So here's what you heard. After game one, same old Phillies. The bullpen lets them down again. Oh, no, it stinks. They pulled Wheeler too soon. I'm going to read some of the tweets that I saw after game one and after game two, and you're going to be just amazed. Here's what I will say. On paper, the Phillies are a playoff team. They always were a playoff team if you look at them on paper. Now, are they as good as the Braves? That was the million-dollar question, and to me, it looks like they're not as good as the Braves. But they weren't as good as the Braves last year, and they weren't as good as the Braves 2 years ago. And somehow they wound up beating them into the playoffs. So I don't know what people want or what you expect. Do you expect that they were going to go 162-0? All right, they're 1-3. They lost to the Braves, and they lost to the Cincinnati Reds last night in overtime. And there's some things that are going on that you don't like. It's 4 games into a season, for crying out loud. I just want to read, Darren. Let's just humor me here as I read some tweets. So here's one tweet. Harper hurts this team moving forward, production and money-wise. He doesn't have a. I get it. Right. Here comes another one. After game two, I think it was too early. It's not too early to figure out that the Phillies may be paper tigers. Fraud Nola, as usual, came up small. The bullpen looks horrible, and the lineup's impotent. Face it, Wheeler and perhaps Harper are our only legit stars. I'm going to go on. I'm going to fill your bucket here with this. Playing like this, contenders, and another one, contender, that they are running it back with the same team who couldn't get it done 2 years in a row. What did the Braves do? Did they get it done? Did I miss something? All right, so here's another one. You must have missed all these games where the lead wasn't safe because of the bullpen, Mike. And yesterday's loss was a depressing, eerie indication that more of that is what we may face looking forward to. Couple games in, right? The Phils come north with a contending team, right? They had good starting pitching. They had a good lineup. They had a good bullpen. And on paper, they're still a pretty good team, except for a guy like Brogdon. Here's another tweet. We just watched almost $1 billion worth of contracts go 1 for 18 with 10 Ks. After hearing 6 months of how we don't need upgrades because we're all motivated after last year's, F that. Now, okay, let's just look at the Wheeler game. Let's look at game one. Yeah, let's look at game one. Game one, they take Wheeler out. He's at 89 pitches. And people are screaming about, how do you take Wheeler out of that game? It's the first game of the year. The guy hasn't gone more than 65 pitches in spring training. No manager in their right mind is going to extend their ace past 90 pitches to go over 100. That's what it would have taken to leave Wheeler in the game. He was at 89 pitches. If you look at history, you will see that no team ever stresses out their ace in a game one. They had the bullpen. They figured they could piecemeal the game the rest of the way. It didn't happen. It is baseball. To say that this Phillies team is not a good team, you're looking foolish. Listen, I stick up for Philadelphia fans all the time. But when you have an overreaction like this, it's just foolish. It makes you look silly. Like I'll wait. In baseball, I need like almost 50 games to determine what kind of team this is going to be. Last year, they got off to a horrendous start, too. We heard the same complaints. And they wound up in the NLCS and should have gone to the World Series with the same problems. People were yelling about the bullpen early. They were yelling about they couldn't hit early. They were yelling about Schwarber being a leadoff hitter. Where did they end up? They folded, or otherwise they would have been in another World Series. This is the team you have. And I save my venom for teams that really deserve venom. I save my venom for teams that really stink, that are really letting down the fan base. I can't sit here in a right mind to bury a team after 3-4 games. It just makes you look stupid. And I'm sorry because I love you all, but it makes you look ridiculous. All right? Have I said enough on that subject? This is what I mean. You got to learn the game. You got to know the game. You can't react from the seat of your pants. You can't be one of these guys that goes, "Oh, they should have taken Wheeler out of the game." Meanwhile, you stress him out. He throws 110 pitches in game one.
Mike, not a
and then
single
what do you got? You got to
starting
manage
pitcher
a
on
season,
opening day.
okay?
On any
this
team
is
in
people
Major
down
League
on
Baseball,
Thompson. Blah, 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 blah.
Pitched over 90 pitches.
I think he's a solid manager. Now, did he make a mistake by not bringing in Hoffman for Strahm in game one? Yes, he did, against Adam Duvall. I don't understand that move. And he'll make moves like that scratch your head. But he's thinking of managing this team for an entire season. And the one thing you don't do as a manager is you don't burn out your ace with 89 pitches and send him back out there with no guarantee that he's not going to throw 20 more pitches to get out of that inning. All right, let's move on. Okay. Let's talk about the Final Four. I love it. Man, I've been loving this tournament, men's and women's. Let me tell you something. I have a confession to make. I watched more of that women's basketball game last night than I did the Phillies. I flipped back and forth. I was in on that women's basketball game with Caitlin Clark, scored 41 points. That was an amazing performance by that girl. That girl is Pete Maravich. I've been saying it for a really long time. And now they play UConn. Gino Auriemma from Norristown is going against Caitlin Clark in Iowa. I'm in on the women's basketball. Now, let's go to the men's Final Four, where you got UConn against Alabama. And UConn is just a juggernaut. We'll talk about them in a little bit with Jay Wright. I've never seen a team that just does not let up. And that's because their head coach doesn't allow them to let up. No matter what the other team does, they have an answer for it. That is a team that is coached from A to Z. And I can't imagine that they're not going to win this national championship. They're an 11.5-point favorite against Alabama. That'll be a bop for them. Meanwhile, Purdue versus NC State. Purdue, a 9.5-point favorite. And Zach Edey, who put on a performance for the ages to get them to the Final Four, sort of the snip at the coaches that bypassed them. All these coaches that looked at him down there at that high school in Florida and said, you can't walk and chew gum at the same time. And he specifically ripped Rick Barnes, who he just gutted in the game. I love it. I love it with this kid with a little attitude. You don't think I can play? How about if I do this to you? I think Purdue, UConn, and I'm predicting UConn will be an 8-9-point favorite over the Boilermakers. So you feeling that, Darren?
I like Edey too. I like him a lot. I think he's fun to watch. Yes, absolutely. I don't think anybody's beating UConn. They're too deep.
Okay, so Purdue loses to UConn.
Yes.
In the championship game. That's what you see.
Yeah, I see exactly how you do.
Okay, so they got to break a little bit. NC State can't hang with Purdue, and I know DJ Burns is a good player, and Alabama can't hang with UConn. So
it would take a monumental performance from Edey, I think.
Yeah,
Maybe he has that game in him.
This is what I like, because all year long I've been saying the two best teams in college basketball are UConn and Purdue. And so for them to meet for the national championship, I think it worked out perfectly. This is why I don't like upsets at this level, because I want to see the best play the best. It's going to be an intriguing game to see Zach Edey up against UConn. NCAA tournament time. The Final Four is already here, and a man who used to be on the sidelines for the Final Fours is now in the studio analyzing and doing a damn good job. He has made a transition from coaching to TV and commercials very smoothly. He, of course, is the great Jay Wright joining us. Hello, Jay.
Mikey Miss, great to be with you, buddy.
It's fantastic. I'm enjoying watching you on TV. Not that I didn't enjoy watching you coach basketball, but here's what I need to talk about. The chemistry that you guys have on the set has been pretty remarkable. I always look for that and how smooth it goes, but it's really well produced. And I'm curious to explain to me how this goes on with a 5-man panel. I felt bad because they threw Bruce Pearl in there the other day. Bruce never shuts up. I'm going to take my boy Jay's time away from him. But how's this all going out?
Well, I'm the only one that's like, I'm playing for two teams, so I do the TNT earlier and then move up to CBS. So it's really two different teams. And as you know, and you and I have talked about this off the air, in the world of media, it's about being a team, and we all work together. And the first week we did it with Adam Lefkoe and Candace Parker and Seth Davis and myself, and it was great. And we have a great team. And then we bring in another great player, and we had in Bruce Pearl, and we got to find our chemistry, and he was great, and it did add. Like for me, it gave me somebody else to go to maybe with some coaching perspective, because Seth's really good with the storylines and the stats, and Candace is the player's perspective. It was kind of cool with Bruce to have a coaching perspective there. And then you go up to New York, and then it's Kenny and Charles, and it's like being with a team with like two great players. Like let them do their thing, and then like just play off them.
Yeah, I guess there's different kind of chemistry on both of those shows. But here's the one thing I think you've mastered. You know when not to blurt in. Like you say your piece and then you back off. And that's really difficult because a lot of new people in the business think they need to be on. They need to add everything. But you have really found a calm in there. Now, was that coached in you, or did you just do that naturally?
That's really interesting, Mike, because that's a part of it that I'm trying to learn. And they're actually different because TNT does it differently than CBS. Like TNT wants you to jump in. Like they want it to be really conversational. They like a little edge to it. So they're kind of asking you to do that. And then CBS is more deliberate and let everybody say their piece. So it's actually different on the different sets. So you got to, like we said earlier, it's about being a part of a team and knowing what the coach wants. You got your producer, Darren, and, we got a producer, so you got to do what the producer wants the team to do.
It's coming off very well. I know that there's a different dynamic with, you've known Charles for 1,000 years, right? So when you're on the set with him, we see what he does on set, but I'm guessing during commercials, it really gets a little wild. Does it?
It is unbelievable. He and Kenny, and because he's down here in Philly all the time, but he and Kenny have the most incredible relationship where they are constantly busting each other's chops, constantly. And it elevates off the air. It literally, and it never stops. So off the air, you're laughing at the two of them. They're going at each other all the time, messing with, hiding each other's phones. They've got lines they go at each other with that you've heard before off the air. And then I always worry, like when we come back, where is this going to go? Like, are they still, you don't know if they're really mad at each other or not. If they just torment each other, and it's hilarious. And when you come back on air, you think, are they going to let it go? Sometimes they keep it going. Sometimes they don't. Like I'm sure everybody heard it, but last Saturday, there was a piece, the producer was in Charles' ear, like 30 seconds, and Charles keep talking, and they got to Kenny, and Kenny on air goes, do you not know what 30 means? Do you not know what 30 seconds? So it's like, you just never know where they're going to go.
Kenny's so dismissive of him too. Kenny's like the basketball pedigree who just sloughs off whatever Charles says, which is fabulous.
And Charles
Hey,
loves it. And
let's
Charles
talk
lets it
about
go. He
the
loves it.
tournament now. We're coming down the home stretch here, and you'll be part of a pretty exciting Final Four. So I'm just going to give you three concepts, and I want to hear your comments on each. Here are three things: UConn, DJ Burns, and Zach Edey. Go ahead, just go.
UConn is incredible in that I think they have the best backcourt in the country. And I also think they have the second best center in the country and the best defensive center in the country. They've got the most talented depth of any team in the country. And with all that talent, they're not beating teams with talent. They're beating teams with relentless competitiveness. They just compete on every possession, offensively with incredible attention to detail, defensively with incredible tenacity, and they wear you down. And then once they wear you down, they don't stop competing. They just keep playing every possession. They're not trying to blow people out. They're just playing to their own standard. And it's not just talent. It's incredible commitment to competitiveness on every possession that they have. It's really enjoying as a coach to watch a coach like Danny Hurley get his team to that point. I felt like that's what I took most pride in with our best teams. And I know how hard it is to get a team there. So that's really impressive to me. DJ Burns. DJ Burns is a guy I think that has the country has grown to love, but I think Kevin Keats has grown to love over time. And if you know Kevin Keats, which I do, I knew him as a high school coach at Hargrave Military Academy. Mikey, you remember Bilal Ben and Shane Clark, who played for us at Villanova. They both played for Kevin Keats at Hargrave Military Academy. So I went down to this military academy in Virginia where Kevin Keats was like working with these guys. They were in uniforms, marching, guns. It was incredible. And he loves guards, perimeter play. But I think it took him time to look at a guy that was a little out of shape and realize towards the end of the year, like, this is our best chance of having an advantage against other teams. We have good guards and we have good perimeter players, but they're not going to be dominant against Carolina and Duke. But we got this guy, and he is unique, and nobody's got a guy like him. And if we play through him, that's going to give us our best chance to beat these teams. And they lost their last 4 regular season games. They were 0-4 the last 4. They were going to be eliminated by Virginia. Virginia went to the foul line with their best free throw shooter, shooting a free throw with 5.4 seconds, and he missed it, and they banked in a 3. This was over. But they stuck with playing through DJ Burns, and he delivered. And he's not a Zach Edey. He's not a Donovan Clingan, but he's so unique. You know, there are styles of play that you can't prepare for. He has a style of play individually in the post that you can't prepare for and you can't simulate until you get in the game and you try to figure out how to deal with it. And he's carried, and he's just made everybody better, and he's given them a style of play that's unique. And then your third one was Zach Edey, right?
Yeah.
I hate to sound like one of these media guys, but I'm just amazed how we kind of take him for granted. He is they haven't come up with the award yet, right? He hasn't been named National Player of the Year yet, correct? I mean,
no, not yet.
It's such a given to me. I don't know. I don't even follow it. He is by far the best basketball player in college basketball. For his position, he is by far the best player. And all he can do is play his position. He is a center, and he is the best center. I put him with Lou Alcindor, Bill Walton, Patrick Ewing, my guy, I'm blanking on the guy from Ralph Sampson. I put him there in terms of his impact on college basketball. And you can say, well, Ralph Sampson won it 2 years in a row, but Ralph Sampson only went to one Final Four. When you're a center, you're so reliant on your other players, but he plays every possession. I am so impressed with how he posts up every possession. If they don't get him the ball, he doesn't stop posting up. He offensive rebounds. On the defensive end, he blocks shots without fouling. He rebounds without fouling. He is a relentless competitor. Like, he is the leader of this team. He's playing to win, not to get his numbers. I'm just blown away by this guy, and I feel like maybe we take him for granted a little bit, but I think finally everybody's understanding how unique he is and what a great player is. And I do think there's going to be a place for him.
I think he's taken for granted. I think Purdue is taken for granted. So the $1 million question on both of these guys we just talked about, because everybody says, well, where do they project as a pro player? So let's take Edey first, because the league has changed. Now, at worst, he will be, to me, a defensive help because he intimidates and he's a great rim protector. Is he an all-around dominant player in the NBA? And what about DJ Burns? Because he's Zach Randolph, and you don't see Zach Randolphs anymore.
I think someone's going to take Edey, and I think there's going to be a battle of wits to figure out how do we get him without giving up too much in the draft. Like, can we get him mid-second round? Do we have to use a late first-round pick? I think, can we wait to get him in free agency, which I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's going to get drafted by somebody because he's so unique. But I think someone's going to take him and teach him, and not even teach him, let him work on his three-point shot because he's got a good stroke. He actually has a good stroke, and it's actually easier for a big guy to become a better three-point shooter than it is to become a better free throw shooter, because because of their size, the three-point shot is actually easier for them. And he's a good free throw shooter. They're going to work on him with that. They're going to work on him with a little bit of perimeter dribble handoff passing skills because he has it. They don't need to use that in college. He's so dominant inside in college. It's not smart to use that, but I think they're going to develop that in him. And then they're going to keep working with him on pick and roll defense and try to make him as effective a player in the NBA as possible. But he's going to be valuable to somebody. DJ Burns, I don't know if I think he's got other interests. You know, you see he's a musician. He likes to have fun with the game. Where he is now and where he's going to have to get to in the NBA to be really good, I don't know if he's really in love with the game enough to do that. So I think someone will take a chance, probably as a free agent. I don't think he'll get drafted, but I think someone will take a chance and then see if he'll change his approach to really get into shape. Because Zach Randolph was in good shape. He was just a big, thick, strong guy. He's got to get in better shape to be effective at the NBA level.
All right, so you're thinking Edey will be drafted at the very least the second round. So I reckon. Okay. So let me now get your prediction on how this plays out. I think it's Purdue, UConn. It's funny, when I look at UConn, I think of you all the time. That guy won't let them lose. Danny Hurley just won't let them lose. And I didn't know what kind of coach he was going to be, but he is just – they run their stuff. They have an answer for every little thing. And so I don't think anybody's going to beat them. If they had to play Purdue, I think they would be a 9-point favorite at least in that game. Is this the way you see it playing out?
And the point you're making about Danny is so true. He is, and I know this feeling because after we won in 16, we had a similar situation. I think he has a better team the second year than we did because in 17 we didn't have the depth because Phil Booth was out that entire year with a knee injury, and Omari Spellman, our big guy, was an academic redshirt. So we didn't have the depth, but we had the talent. And I think I made a mistake in mentally exhausting our guys in fighting complacency. And I'm watching Danny, and I can see the relief in his eyes when they get to the Final Four. he is fighting with them every day. Not that they're bad guys or anything. It's just fighting complacency, fighting swallowing the perfume. We used to use that term, like the perfume of praise. You can sniff it, but if you swallow it, it's poison. And he's fighting it every single day, and he's doing a masterful job. And it is mentally exhausting because you go to the Final Four, you want to come back and just say, I love you guys. I'm so grateful to be a part, but you can't. You got to say, guys, don't listen to what's going on around you. We got to keep getting better. We got to stay down. It is exhausting, and he's doing a great job. And I do think, to your point, like, he's not going to let them slip. And I do think depth-wise, they're a little bit better than Purdue, just a little bit.
Yeah, and I don't see any one of those guys slack because of that. Let me turn in a different direction. I was on Sirius NBA, the starting lineup today. That's my buddy Frank Isola. We were old newspaper mates, and he got in a lot of trouble with Villanova fans recently when he said first of all, he's a Thibodeau guy, and so all this attention in New York is going to you over the great play of Jalen and Josh Hart and Dante DiVincenzo. And boy, isn't it great what Jay Wright made those guys NBA play a whole bit? And he's thinking, oh, it's Thibodeau. Thibodeau's got something on it too. So I want you to react to that, because he took he said that on the air. Well, Thibodeau has nothing to do with it. And the Villanova fans came after him in droves. So he asked me to ask you about this. This dynamic between the way you've shaped these guys, and you've obviously had a great influence, and what they're doing now in the NBA with the Knicks.
You know what? No one's ever said that. That's a really interesting point. You're making my mind's going right now as you say this. It's making me think. But first of all, I had a little bit to do with them. They were, each one of them, coming into Villanova, and it's why we recruited each one of them. None of them were. Jalen was the most highly recruited, but he was thought to be undersized. Coming into college, he was thought to be undersized. But we loved each one of them because of their heart and their determination. So they brought that themselves. We obviously built on that some. But in the same sense, Thibodeau saw that in them in the NBA, and you didn't see them playing at the level they are right now on their other teams. But what Tom Thibodeau saw was that, to use the term again, that relentless competitiveness, that desire to win over individual stats. He saw that, and you got to give him and the president of the Knicks, you got to give them a lot of credit for investing in those characteristics. And then Tom Thibodeau values that. Like, he could have more talented players, more highly drafted players playing over those guys, but he chooses not to. And they know, and I talk to these guys about it all the time. You know, one of the things Tom Thibodeau gets criticized about is playing them too many minutes. It's because he values what they do and allows them and really praises them for being who they are, and doesn't worry when Josh Hart misses shots. He leaves them in there because he knows the value he's bringing defensively and on the glass. So I give him a lot of credit, and I know those guys do too.
Yeah, what Frank said originally was that Jay Wright is a fabulous coach, and he did. Well, the Villanova people didn't hear that part of it. They heard the part where Thibodeau's not getting any credit. So you maintain the Christ-like presence to the Villanova fan base, because they'll, you know, if anything is perceived as negative, they're coming out in a fury for you, Jay.
They are loyal, and as you know, I benefited from that greatly during our career. But you know, there was in the beginning, and you were a sports writer in the beginning. They weren't happy with me in the beginning. So we've been through some tough times together, but they are loyal. Once you're in and you give them some good moments, they're loyal for life.
Yeah, you're right. They were tough at first, but then you won them over very quickly. All right, just a couple last quick things. I'll let you go. The Great Clips commercial. Apparently you're anti-bangs. Is that what the story is? You don't like the bangs? The Great Clips commercial?
Cutting your bangs as a response to your team losing, Michael. That's
Okay.
it's just
Is
how
that what it
you
was?
handle wins and losses in the tournament. I just didn't want anyone to make that
Okay.
poor decision to cut their bangs just because their teams got upset.
I'm straightened out now. So how long did that production take to film that commercial?
It was amazing. What was amazing is someone in Atlanta, we did it in Atlanta, someone gave up their entire big, beautiful house for three days for them to set up in there. We just came in from one day for about 5 hours. But what amazed me was it was in a neighborhood in someone's big, huge, beautiful house. They had all the trucks, and the TNT and the Great Clips people took over the entire house. And that's where we filmed it in different rooms in the house, which I never knew they did that. But it was about 5 hours.
Nice. It came out very well. Okay, and I got to ask you this because I've asked you it 1,000 times. Everybody has the same question for you. Now that you are finding a groove in TV, is there, and this was before you started TV, you didn't really have any inkling of wanting to get back into coaching. So now it's after TV. Do you ever think about it? Would you ever consider it on a pro level or a college level at this stage of your life?
No, I wouldn't, Mike. I'm really I'm enjoying TV, but what I'm enjoying is getting out and seeing these teams practice and talking to coaches on another level. I'm enjoying being a part of Villanova. We're at a tough spot right now, but that's what it's all about, is going through this together and trying to keep our culture together and sticking together through these tough times. I'm enjoying that. And I'm enjoying, as you know, like being able to go to the Jersey Shore in the summer for more than like 24 hours at a time, get off a plane and recruiting, drive down, run on the boardwalk, and then drive back for practice. Like actually being there for a week at a time. I'm loving it. That
is awesome. Jay, always a pleasure to talk to you. Always a pleasure to touch base. I look forward to watching you on television. So you're doing a tremendous job, and we'll see what happens with the Final Four, and we'll catch up again down the road, okay?
Anytime, Mike. Good talking to you, buddy.